The Mets are playing really poorly. I think that's an understatement. they, it's just, I can't remember a stretch like this where it's been so bleak and so bad. And I know in previous episodes, we were looking at the series against the Tigers and the Rockies as like the get right series. Like, okay, we've been discombobulated, we've been rattled a bit. Let's just get right against two teams that are struggling, that are in the basement of their respective divisions, subpar records, below 500. Let's just get back to our winning ways. Against the Nationals, we lost 2 of 3. We didn't see that coming, but they had an encouraging win, to cap that series. And so we wanted to take that momentum against Atlanta. We lose 2 of 3. But again, there was an encouraging win and there was an encouraging loss. Not all hope was lost. There wasn't a ton of despair. It was just like, all right, it's a bit rocky right now. A lot of turbulence on this flight, but we think we can land this thing. And then we go into Detroit and we get swept. I mean, the first game, close 6-5, and then it's 8-1 and 2-0. Scherzer looked bad. He got scratched from tonight's start in Cincinnati. They had to call up David Peterson, who got shelled. There was a New York Post article about how he's still pitching with discomfort below his right scapula, around his shoulder blade. I think that's going to be an issue. I guess he had that issue when he was with Washington in 2019. I think that's going to continue to be an issue. Speaking as someone that is around his age, the shit does not get better, my man. Like, your health, we can't all be Tom Brady. Like, I don't know, maybe double up on avocados, avoid tomatoes. I don't know what to tell you at this point, Max, but he's 2-2, ERA around 6. I don't know. At this point, I'd rather just kind of shut him down and let him get back to some degree of normalcy. Because, he had the suspension and I don't want to say he used that as an excuse, but he did say that was a major reason why he's not pitching to the level that everyone expects him to pitch. That he has these little nagging injuries here and there, and that he's not feeling comfortable. He's not able to get the kind of velocity he wants. He's not able to get the kind of spin rate he wants. And so this is where we're at. And I honestly, at this point, I'm telling you, it doesn't make sense to lose your minds and to press and to pressure players. It doesn't make sense to do that at this point in the season. It doesn't make sense. I'd rather just see him just, hey, Max, I know you like to pace and you like to grind your teeth and you like to, you're a very intense dude. How about you take that intensity maybe out of the clubhouse? I don't know. But it just feels like he just needs to kind of go through the rehab process and get better. And we'll take our lumps. I'm fine with taking our lumps right now. Justin Verlander comes back against his old team in Detroit, and he has a really rocky start, and you're saying to yourself, oh my God, dude. I think he gave up 2 home runs in the first inning, and it was just like, this is officially a home run derby. I can't believe it's this early in the season, but the home run derby is officially off and running, and we are losing the home run derby. But he did settle down, which was good to see. Hopefully there's more of that in the future because, like we said, the starting rotation is pretty garbage right now, outside of maybe Kodai Senga, who gave us a nice, I think he gave us 6 innings, which is what we've been craving this entire season. We have not had our starters going finish 6 innings. Kyle Gelling from Barstool Sports, who does the We Gotta Believe podcast, their Mets podcast. I mean, he has a tracker going of did the Mets starting pitcher go 6 innings? And it's we're 1 for 4, I think, since he started it. So, that was much needed from Kodai Senga. And then we have a 5-2 loss, a game that we had within our reach. The victory was there within our grasp. And then Adam Ottavino comes back from the paternity leave list and blows the lead. And then you have a 13-6 blowout. I guess that was, what was that, Sunday? I don't remember. But, we were so high on the bullpen at the start of the season. But your bullpen can only sustain so much and be taken, so much, can sustain so much, so many innings, so many appearances. There's there's a bend but not break mentality, but at the same time, they have their limits, you know? And I think that's what happens. Your starting pitching suffers. Maybe your bullpen can pick them up for a week, maybe 2 weeks, but anything beyond that, but beyond a series or two, and I think you're asking too much of the bullpen, and then you start having to call guys up, the minors who don't really have the kind of experience you're looking for. And so that's the crux of not having starting rotation that can take you into the sixth and the seventh and later innings. It taxes the bullpen. So then your bullpen suffers, and then you're giving up a lot of runs, and then your offense, then that pressure goes on the offense to make up for that, for those runs. And and so then they tend to press, and then they, ground into double plays when their bases are loaded, and they leave men on base, and they're not moving the guy over, and they're striking out, and they're not getting the clutch hits that they used to get last season. We had it really swell last season. We had it really nice, and instead we like everyone has said, we just weren't able to enjoy it because we were constantly fearful that the Braves were going to overtake us, and we were so concerned about the fucking Braves. And then the Braves end up winning the division anyway in the last 3 games, the last series of the season. And then we had to go up against San Diego. So it's like, I don't know, dude. Let's just figure it out. Take your time, figure it out. I know that people are calling for Mark Vientos and for Ronnie Mauricio to get called up. I don't know that's going to do too much, because where do they fit into this lineup? Where do they fit into the field? If you're saying Marte and Canna are struggling, does that mean you put Beatty into the outfield? You have McNeil in the outfield, and then you have Vientos at third and Mauricio at second. I'm not opposed to it. You kind of have to shuffle it up a little bit, mix it up a little bit. It's like in hockey when you pull the goalie, it's in football when you pull the quarterback. You just try and get something going. And if that means bringing up Vientos and Mauricio, that means you have to take away 2 spots from someone else. Who are you taking it away from? Are you really pulling the plug on Vogelback? Are you DFAing Escobar? It's just, I think it's more trouble than what it's worth at this point. I am super excited for the down the stretch in September when the rosters expand and we're able to call them up. I think that's going to be phenomenal. You're going to look at, you have a really great glimpse at the future of the franchise, and it's looking pretty bright, my man. But at this point, they are tearing the cover off the ball down there in the minors for Syracuse and Binghamton, I guess. But it's a pitching issue at this point, and we just don't have the arms. David Peterson is in such a friggin' rut. McGill has kind of come back down to earth big time. Carrasco, I guess, has a rehab start coming up. We're not getting Quintana back until maybe July. We have the second lowest number of innings out of our starters this season with 170 and a third. And that didn't change tonight in game 1 against the Reds. Peterson was down early. It was 3-0 in the first. And I was just like, Jesus Christ, I just turned it on. Only the Oakland A's rotation has given up homers at a higher rate than the Mets at 1.9 per 9 innings. And the rotation's rate of 4.6 walks per 9 innings was the worst in the majors, to go along with an ERA of 5.34. So it starts with the starting rotation. That's where the wheels started to come off, was with the starters. And then eventually you're going through so many goddamn arms. To have Nagosic go long relief as much as he has, Brigham, Yacobonis, that's a hard pace to keep up for any bullpen. When your starters are not getting even through the 5th, then you have to get through friggin' 5 innings with, however many bullpen guys they have, So the loss to Detroit and to Colorado, those ended up, we now have our 4th consecutive series loss. 3 of them to teams with losing records, with the Nats, Tigers, Rockies. We lost, I think, 11 of our last 14 games, something like that. It's one of the worst slumps that we've had in a very long time. It's reminiscent of when Mike Francesa, WFAN, I forget what season it was, but he tore the Mets a new asshole after they lost to the Rockies, whatever season that was. It was just like a joke of a franchise, joke of a season, blah, blah. Shades of that going on, but with a team that I don't think way better personnel. Just a roster that on paper. All right. Well, the mic went out on me during my rant, which was maybe that's a sign from God, from a sign from above. It's pretty awful. But there's that movie As Good as It Gets, right? With Jack Nicholson. This is as bad as it gets for the Mets. I really do think this is a cleansing. This is a detoxing. This is everyone just trying to get comfortable and get right, you know? And from the top down, from Buck Showalter telling the team, just play better, to guys like Vogelback and Lindor, who, when they're interviewed by the press, they're preaching patience. And I'm not a man known for my patience at all. It's one virtue I do not have, but I need to start practicing it in addition to preaching it. And it starts with the New York Mets. We're within 2 games of a postseason spot. That's how garbage the National League is. I mean, as stacked as the AL East is, where like every team could make the playoffs in that division, outside of the Braves and the Pirates, you don't have a lot of great teams in the National League. You know, Lindor said you don't win the division in April or May. It counts, it contributes, but we lost the division the last 2 days last year. And it's from a fan standpoint, it's interesting how I've kind of used what happened last season and said, hey, you know, let's not get too crazy about winning the division and trying to keep pace with the Braves or stay ahead of the Braves. Let's not concern ourselves with that. Okay? Just play good baseball. We're 18th in base. We're 18th in runs per game and 14th in runs allowed. I think a lot of teams in the National League are underperforming right now. One of them is that isn't underperforming, that's exceeding expectations, I think, are the Marlins. We're now tied with them below 500, although it doesn't look like we're going to be tied with them for long. This is the first time where we're below 500. And again, I honestly think that even I once said it would take us to be 10 games or more below 500 for me to really start to lose interest in the season, to really count them out. The fact that we have gone on we've had such a slump, and it just seems like nothing's working and we can't win games. To be just hovering around 500 is a testament to how we were gutting out victories earlier on in the season. I mean, do you remember when we were 14 and 8 or 5 or whatever it was, and people were still complaining? It's like the Mets must have been like, you know what? We'll show you how bad it can get. You know, you want us to lose games, we'll lose games. So, yeah, we have the Reds and the Nationals, and we're this game 1 of the Reds series going on right now. We're down by 1. Good to see that offense still has some fight in them. You know, Lindor going deep. We did have the bases loaded 7-3 and came away with 1 run, which is frustrating. But Reds came in this series. They got pummeled by the White Sox, dropping 2 or 3 there. They were 14-20 heading into the series, 4th in NL Central, 5 games out. We won 5 of 6 from them last season, including 2 of 3 in Cincy. We have not lost a season series to the Reds since 2013, and we've won the last 3 series at Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati. So history would dictate that we should come out of this series with a series W, but I wouldn't be shocked if at this point we lose. I lose 2 of 3. I wouldn't be shocked. As far as the Nationals go, they were swept in Arizona to fall 13-21. They're in last in the division, and we won 7 of 10 from the Nats last season. But what a difference a year makes. I mean, I don't know that the roster looks that different for us from 2021 to 2022. I think if anything, we would say that there was a significant upgrade over last season. And yet here we are, you know? It's a case of not a whole lot going right for us right now. The chips are not falling our way. We're not as fortunate as we were last year. The ball's not bouncing in our favor. So we one of the great characteristics and traits that were so admirable about last season's team is that they refused to give in. They refused to quit. They kept fighting, and they would find ways to win. And you're not seeing that a whole lot of it early on in this season. But I truly do believe that they are going to use this really horrific 2-3 week stretch to their advantage. I think this is something that can fuel them as times get tough throughout the season, and say, remember when we were going through that and we stuck together and we didn't point fingers and we didn't blame and we didn't start sniping each other, and we stuck together and we bonded and all that good culture, the culture, positive team culture that you need in order to really make headway and win games and stun people and surprise people in the playoffs. That's ultimately what baseball comes down to, apparently, in the postseason, is like, all right, who's feeling themselves? I don't know if I have this here. I think I liked it on Twitter, but it is incredible to look at. And it's amazing how many people forget about it from year to year. So this is from a random account. I don't know how it showed up on my timeline, but and he copied it from someone else. So I don't even know who to cite right now. But the records through the first 50 games, the Braves were 23-27 last season, went on to win 101 games. We're all too familiar with that. The Phillies started last season 21-29. They made it to the World Series. In 2021, the Braves were 24-26. They won the World Series. And in 2019, the Nationals were 19-31 and won the World Series. So I just can't bring myself to count this team out this early in the season. I can't. It must be so exhausting to be Frank the Tank from Barstool Sports. And, even my mother, who's a diehard Mets fan last season, the team was winning games left and right, and she still found something to complain about. That was just because Pete Alonso grounded out in a scoring opportunity once over the span of a month. It's like, we would love to have those champagne problems this year because it's all gone against us. But at the same time, I'm telling you, I think this is the worst that we're going to see. It really is. I don't know that we're going to win this game. It'd be great if we came back and won this game. Then we have Verlander going against Hunter Green. That's going to be a tough game because Hunter Green, even though he's 0-2, he's a 3.74 ERA. Hard to say. I thought this was the game that we could have got on Luke Weaver. He has almost an 8 ERA, and it took us a while. We had to knock him out of the ball game in order to get to the bullpen and get some runs on the board. And then we got our guy, Mr. Consistent, Kodai Senga. He's 4-1 with a 3.38 ERA going against left-hander Nick Lodolo, who's 2-1 with a 6.29 ERA. So it feels like if we don't pull this one out, we could be looking at another series loss against Cincinnati, which, yeah, it's historical, hasn't happened, but crazier things have happened. The Phillies got no hit and went to the World Series. The Mets got no hit, I think, in the season that we went to the World Series in 2015. 2015 is a great example of I don't think anyone thought that we really had World Series aspirations heading into that season. And then it just took 1, 2, 3 players into the fold, into the mix in the second half in August to turn things around and to start clicking and for everyone to play at peak performance. Daniel Murphy in that season is a prime example of all season pretty decent, and then just decides that he's friggin' Babe Ruth in the postseason and is just crushing home runs left and right. It's so the last thing, we've had a lot of injuries to our pitching staff. What I do appreciate about this team is that we don't have a ton of injuries in the field. Omar Narvaez notwithstanding, and I think Alvarez has been playing better. I know he just struck out, but I think he went yard in this game. He's hitting a bit better. It'd be interesting. I don't know if anyone has done any kind of analysis or studied how he's calling games and how that's affecting the starting pitching. And maybe that's a big reason why These pitchers are not making it through the 5th and into the 6th. But I think overall, it's slowly but surely looking like they have a solid catcher. And then we have the 4 game set at Washington. You have McGill going against Mackenzie Gore, who put up a gem against us last time around. He's 3-2, 3.65 ERA. You have Lucchesi, who did well against the Giants and then came back and did not pitch well against what was it, the Rockies or the Tigers? I think it was the Rockies, maybe. I think it was short turnaround, short rest. And I think that was the big question for Kodai Senga is they're really giving him 5 days of rest where normally you get 4. And I think Senga has said that he's willing to go and do the 4 days in between starts. But the organization is just like, there's no need right now. There's no need. So I think Buck got tossed in this game. So I think some of it's getting to him. It has to be. To have to face the press after every loss and be like, your team is supposed to be good and you stink. Why? It's like that, it's like Groundhog Day. It can get a bit annoying. So I don't think Scherzer's gonna. I mean, I would be surprised if Scherzer makes the next start in Washington against Jake Irvin, who has a 2.08 ERA, and then we'll have Verlander going against Patrick Corbin, who's 1-4 with a 5.17 ERA. I guess we could maybe, if we get a split of that series, I think I'll be happy. But again, 7 games. Looks like we're losing this one. But if you come out of this playing 500 ball, that's a step in the right direction. And I know it's not what people want to hear, and that'll do it. Yeah. So Mets just lost to the Reds 7-6. So you got 6 more games. I think if you are able to play 500 ball, all things considered, it's better than what you've been playing. It's better than what their record shows over the past 2 weeks. So, yeah, I mean, I refuse to get upset. I refuse. This team has got a lot of talent, and I don't think it's not a case of 2017, 2018 where you had just a rash of really bad injuries that took out a lot of key players. Yes, it has dramatically impacted our starting rotation. But I'm very pleased with our starting lineup's ability to just stay healthy. And maybe mentally they're not in the healthiest place right now because it sucks losing. But I still think that good things are coming and that they'll get hot. And then they'll win 11-14. And it's like, remember when we lost 11-14? Everyone said we're not going to make the playoffs and fire Buck and all this other garbage. And it's like, it's just a matter of time. And I know there are a lot of fans out there that live and die with every single game. I can't be that guy. I'm not going to be that guy. I'm sorry. It's just not worth it. It's not good for your health. For your health, just go and enter your meditative state, transcendental meditation. Just repeat this phrase. The Mets are going to the playoffs. Mets are going to the playoffs. The Mets are going to the playoffs. Just repeat that for 20 minutes a day, twice a day. And then guess what? You feel a lot better about this squad.